We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani.
I'm Danielle.
And we're here on December 31st. It is New Year's Eve. Can you believe we made it through an entire year?
Yes, I can believe it.
I mean, it seemed like we just hit this year. Well, of course, of course. But it went so fast. I'm like, my God, we're here already?
It does feel like we just had this conversation. It really does. I was just talking to a couple friends the other day, and we were like, wow, it's already almost January. Do you remember we just rang in 2021? And we've gone through this year so fast, and now we need to focus on, did we accomplish the goals that we set out to accomplish? Where are you in the vision that you established for your marriage for 2021? Did you make it? Did you do it? I don't know. We're going to figure it out. But first, before we do that, we want to jump into asking you to make sure you like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a show. We really appreciate you guys doing that and continuing to help us spread this message throughout the 4 corners of the world.
There it is. All right, guys, we're going to dive right into the conversation. You have to understand that in life there are seasons, right? And you enter into one season, and then seasons come to an end. And in this earth, we know that we have 4. We have winter, summer, spring, fall. There's nothing that you can do about it. If you plan on living this life, you're going to experience these seasons. And so you want to be intentional to say, well, you know what? If seasons are a part of life, then seasons are a part of our marriage as well. And guess what? It doesn't work quite out like, okay, there's 4 quarters of our season. It doesn't work like that, but you can be intentional in making sure that you're transitioning from one season of life in your marriage to another. You don't have to be stuck in the season you're in if you don't like the season, or you can prolong the season that you're in if you like the season that you're in. You have control. And I think what happens is a lot of people are waiting for things to change. We'll see what happens in the new year. Whatever happens, happens. I just don't know. No, you have control. You have the ability of shifting and shaping your future to be what you want it to be. You got to remember that the future isn't something ahead of you. The future is within you. Do you understand that? It's within you. And so you could determine what you want for your life. But before talking about the future, what we want to do is talk about this past year. We want to talk about a couple's review of the year.
Yeah, it was really cool. When I used to work in corporate America, I worked for somebody who was a visionary. And every year we would do the rear view mirror exercise. And that was a year in review. And it was phenomenal. And just like a business, as Hasani's saying, you break up your business goals quarterly to see if you're accomplishing what it is that you set out to do. And so you may not have done that, but in the last year, 2021 rang in, we talked to you about the year and what you were experiencing this past year and what you wanted to do for the next year. And we actually give our clients a vision worksheet where you actually create the vision for the new year. And so how did you do? That's what we want to look at, because guess what? So every year we say, New Year's resolution, I'm no longer eating meat, or whatever you're not doing. And then by February, you're back eating meat and doing
February.
Yeah, January.
How about January?
Starts out strong.
How about at the end of the night?
February, people have totally called it quits. So we want to see, we've helped you. We've been with you this whole year. We've been keeping you on track. I know you have made some serious progress, and we want to check in and also give you some tips to look at what you've done, look at what you've accomplished, so that you can set a new course for this year, 2022 coming up.
So, we talk about the importance of a work day, and sometimes people get stuck. What do we talk about on this work day? I don't know how to do this. So what we want to do is give you questions that you can engage in with your partner that will be extremely helpful in your workday. Not to say that you only have to have it in your workday. These are questions you can have outside of your workday, but these are intentional, thought-provoking questions that will truly allow you to properly assess where you are at so that you can plot a course for the future. It's almost like, when dealing with finances, there's something called your net worth, and that's determined by your assets and your liabilities. And once you know the difference between the two, you know where you are in your journey. And so likewise, there's a relational net worth that you've got to determine to know where you are in your journey, right? That's where self-awareness comes in, because if you want something more, well, you got to know where you're at. Once you know where you're at, you know how far you are from where you want to be. So that's what we want to talk about today. So some of these questions that we want to share with you, you've heard before. You've heard us say before, but it's about engaging the question in your relationship with your spouse and literally coming up with answers. They're not rhetorical questions. These are questions you should ask, answers that you should contemplate, write down, talk through to assess where you are. So we're going to go through these questions. So if you have paper and pen, write them down, and we're giving you instruction of how to have these conversations with your spouse. Question number 1. How would you rate your marriage versus your relationship? If you think about this, at the beginning of the year, maybe you were in a dark place and the way you would rate your marriage was a 2. But after the work, tuning in daily, going through a process of recovery, maybe you're at a 5, right? But then how would you rate the relationship? And really quick, the difference between the two, once again, your marriage represents your partnership. So that's where your hard skills come into play. That is how I show up as a wife and a husband in terms of responsibility, generating income for the home, managing the finances, parenting the children, taking care of the daily maintenance of the household, chores, responsibilities, repairs, stuff like that. That's the marriage. How are we showing up? How would we rate ourselves in that space? Write your number down, share it with your partner, and then explain the answer, because there's always a story or an explanation behind the number. Now, as it relates to the relationship, okay, that's where your companionship comes into play. That is effective communication, blending of personalities, quality time, spending, meeting each other's love language. It's the heartfelt connection between two people. So how are we in that space? Yeah. Because you can have a pretty good marriage, rocky relationship, or vice versa.
And you have to find balance in this exercise, because where you're at right now may not be ideal, right? It may not be what you wanted. It may not be what you expected. And that's where the rear view part of this exercise comes into play, because we're asking you to, okay, let's evaluate the year. Mm-hmm. We've started on this journey on a certain trajectory. We made certain commitments. Based on that, how am I doing? How have we done? Right? Because if you just start that exercise where you're at, you're going to be like, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, this is wrong, this is, But if you look back and you say, wow, we were in a bad place. I felt like we had no boundaries and all these things were out of play, and we established something new and we're still exactly where we were. Then that's a problem. That means that you haven't moved forward. That means you need to work on that. But if you see any forward movement, that is worthy of acknowledgement, where we may not be where we are going, but we're definitely not where we were.
So Federlina says, me and my husband are doing so much better because of the two of you. Thank you. So this is an example of maybe you were in a certain space early in the year and now you're in a better place, but we want to quantify it. Okay, that's the key. Because to say that we're better, well, what does that mean? Maybe all of us are better, but we're still in a dark place, right? So to quantify means to create a metric for. Like, for instance, if I said, how much do you weigh? Well, you can know by getting on a scale. The scale is a metric. If I say, how much money do you have? You could tell me what that is, because money in a bank account, the bank account is a metric. It measures what it is that it's possessing, or what it. So likewise, we want to create a specific measurement by having a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so obviously 1 would be horrible. We're not in a good place. 10, oh my God, we're in an amazing place. So what number would you give? I don't need you to post it here, but these are the questions that you need to have with each other, because we say this all the time. We're in a journey together as a couple, but she's got her own walk, I've got my own. And maybe I'm good and she's not. Maybe she's good and I'm not. And so oftentimes we're thinking that our spouse feels what we feel, think what we think, and you'd be surprised. Once you have the conversation, you may realize, I thought we were in alignment, but
That's so true.
Right?
That happens quite often. Yeah, like, if I'm feeling great about something and then you come to me with an issue, I'm blindsided because I'm like, I thought we were doing great. But that's why these conversations are so important, so that we can get down to brass taxes and understand where each other are, especially as it relates to what we said we were going to do. Because people, I mean, are you big on commitment? Like, if we make a commitment about something, I'm looking for your moves. I'm looking for you to do what it is that you say that you're going to do, especially if I'm offering grace to cover a multitude of issues, right? I'm looking to see that there's some forward movement. So I've got to be able to, as Hasani said, quantify what's going on now based on what was going on then. That really helps, guys.
Absolutely. Guys, we're talking about a couple's year in review. We have a number of questions for you. I hope you're writing these down. We'll be right back after this short break. If you're a man and you have a pulse, then you need to join this program. You're a husband, you're a father, you're a leader. You have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You have to be everything for everyone, but do you know who and how to be for you? You're still in search of your own significance. You're in internal battle with your own vices. You're questioning, do I even know what it means to be a man? I know I'm supposed to be there for others, but what about me? The fact is, you need a model. You need a code to live by, a system of principles to govern your life. You need an internal compass to guide your every decision. You need the 4 securities to build your own kingdom. What you need is the foundry. In short, a foundry is a facility where castings are produced by melting metal, pouring liquid metal into a mold, and then allowing it to solidify. Well, this is where we're testing the metal of men. Foundry is a 12-week men's-only coaching program. It is a brotherhood that will take each man through a purification process of the heart, mind, and soul. We here at Couples Academy promise you that if you give us 12 weeks of your life, you will no longer recognize it. If you care about the improving of your life, your marriage, and your family, register today.
Welcome back, y'all. You are watching the Couples Academy show, and we're trying to ring in the new year with you. And I want to acknowledge some folks that are joining us. I want to say good morning to Angel and SSB. Don't worry, be happy. Happy New Year right back at you. Rhoda is with us. Good morning. Hey, Jewel. Good to see you. Ralph is with us. Gorgeous Wales. Fedlina. Tamika. Good morning. Vashan is all the way in Chicago watching. Gonzalez is joining us too. Fedlina. Mekalong. Did I get that right? From Botswana is joining us. Jessica, good to see you. Who else is with us? And there's a couple people that I missed that I just saw on here. Marisa was with us a moment ago. So good morning to everybody. Let's continue with this conversation, guys. We are talking about reviewing your year, a couple's year in review.
Yeah.
You've been with us all year. You guys have been up and down with us and taking in a lot of information and applying it inside your marriages. We hear from you all the time. So we know that you're working it. We know that you're doing the thing. But we want to know, have you made any improvements? Have things changed? Have you accomplished the goals that you have set out for yourself? So let's jump into the next point.
The next question, you've heard us say this before, but the question is, are you asking each other this question? This is not just a question we want you to ask in terms of a year review, but this should be a regular question that you ask every single time you have a work day to assess how you are on a weekly basis. That question is, how is your love tank? How is your love tank? Listen, if you don't have gas in your car, you can't go anywhere. You're in a stuck place. When you have gas, it allows you to move forward. And so you have in your dashboard, right, this measurement of how much gas you have. It will tell you if you're on E, it's in the red. If it's a quarter of a tank full, half tank full, 3/4 full, or full. You want to, now, some people have rules about this, right? They don't allow their car to go beyond the halfway mark. Some, once it hits a quarter of a tank, okay, that's my signal, we got to fill up. Now, in terms of a relationship, you should never want it to get to a quarter of a tank. You don't want your love to be a quarter of a tank full. You want to make sure that it's tipping at the top, like almost spilling out. You know how sometimes you put the gas in the car and it's spilling out because it just won't. That's where you ultimately want it to be. But you have to ask the question and assess for your spouse. Hey, babe, how is your love tank?
Yeah, and you know what? When you're asking and being asked that question, you have to acknowledge that you have a couple of different love tanks. Like you have a self-love tank, right? And then you have your love tank between you and your spouse. You have a family love tank. You know, you have a lot of different love tanks. And so sometimes we want to pile them all onto one, you know, and that becomes difficult for your partner, because if I'm doing all the right things that you told me that you needed me to do, right? We talked this out. I know your love language. Your love language is time, quality time, and I'm giving you all the time, but still you don't feel loved. Then I'm in a situation. Where's the issue, right? Now it's about figuring out what's going on with you, that even though those needs are being met as far as your spouse can do it, you're still not feeling loved. Sometimes we have a hole in our own tank, and we don't have self-love and we don't have self-value, and some of it has to do with what you've experienced in your relationship. Some of it you brought into the relationship, but you got to be able to evaluate the two so that you can give a genuine answer and acknowledge the work that your spouse has been putting in. I think all too often couples are struggling because one person is actually putting in and doing the thing, but it goes under not acknowledged or not acknowledged at all.
That's very, very true. And I think that's why it's important to have this question asked on a regular basis, because you're inviting your spouse into a conversation for a deeper dive. I mean, if every single workday you start with that before you even get into your topic, I think it's good, because you can course correct, you can make adjustments and pivots, you can clarify, you can have the right perspective. So let that be a regular question that you ask. Let's go to another question that I think is extremely important. What have been your setbacks versus successes? Now, I want to give you instruction. What we want you to do, sit down with your spouse. This is for a work day in the new year. Take out a sheet of paper. On one sheet, I want you to label it setbacks. And another sheet, I want you to label it successes. And I want you to think through, talk through, brainstorm, articulate all of the challenges, the setbacks, the struggles, the disappointments, the frustrations. And I want you both to be able to write down on your own individual sheets so that you can truly discuss it. Because guess what? There may have been a setback that I'm completely unaware of that is on the forefront of your mind that you can't get out. Then I'm like, that's how disconnected people can be. Like they're living life together, but they're completely oblivious and unaware of something that's really triggering or bringing a spouse down. So being able to talk about it is critically important, because you can be conscious of what not to do in the year to come. But it's also important to assess the successes. Now, this is critically important for a hurt spouse, a betrayed spouse, because they look through a lens, a dark lens, because they're in pain. And to your point, they may not take the time to acknowledge. So while you want to acknowledge the bad, you want to take the time to acknowledge the good, because if there is no good, it becomes very demotivating. Like, what am I doing all this for? Like, really? You don't recognize nothing? I didn't do nothing? And so you want to be able to look at both.
You didn't do it right. That's what's wrong. And go ahead.
Yeah, you just have to be sober-minded with this conversation.
I think that's why it's cool to do this every year, because it's, if you're doing your work day and your play day, you're already in the habit habit of working things out and having those moments of joy and enjoying yourself and then doing the hard work. And so a conversation like this is literally like you are having this culmination of the year conversation. And here's all your wins. Here's all the wonderful things that you did. Here's where you really need to improve. And when you're constantly doing these things on a regular basis, the pill isn't hard anymore. You know, in the beginning, when you first start doing it, you don't want to hear nothing your spouse has to say. You don't want to hear their constructive criticism or their unconstructive criticism. You just don't want to hear nothing they have to say. But getting into the routine makes it so much better. So you get to the end of the year and you're now looking to see, are we moving forward? That's what this is about. Are we actually moving forward or are we stuck? And just like with any business, right? If they look at their cyclical calendar and they see that they're struggling and they're losing money in this quarter and, you know, this is going wrong in that quarter, we need to hire or fire employees in that quarter. Every quarter, they're working on improving until they get to the end of the year so that they can have what it is that they have set out to accomplish. And that's what we're doing. You guys are watching the Couples Academy show. We got a quick break and we'll be right back.
To the wives struggling to move forward, I know that you're hurt, filled with doubt, fear, anger, and resentment. I know you're trying to be your best self throughout this recovery process, all while still having to be mom, daughter, sister, friend, and so much more. I know it feels impossible to be there for everyone else when at times your journey feels so isolated and alone. I know that more than once a day, you scream on the inside, I can't take this anymore. I know there are days when you feel like you want to give up and run away. I know you spend too much time sitting in your car parked in the driveway to get your head right so that you can keep moving. I know this feels like a lot of work with no guarantees. And I know you wonder, what happened to me? Who am I? And why am I here more than you'd like to admit? I know all of this because I once felt the way you do too. It may not be evident by looking around because we all wear our masks, but you're not the only one who feels like you'll never get back to you. That's why I've launched UnEarthed. UnEarthed is a 12-week group coaching program focused on discovering the woman within. Just as the earth hides all kinds of precious stones waiting to be found, buried within every woman are the seeds of wisdom, strength, purpose, and passion waiting to be brought to the light. UnEarthed will take you through a spiritual, emotional, and physical excavation process that will reveal to you who God designed you to be and guide you through a process to embrace and activate your true identity. When you complete this journey, you'll have a new focus aligned with your core values so that you can begin to feel your life again and discover that your gifts aren't buried, but planted and waiting to be unearthed. Register today.
Well, there it is, guys. I hope that you're hearing the importance of the program that Danielle and I have just unpacked as we go into the new year. You want your new year to be an amazing one, join that 12-week program. It's going to be transformational. We put so much into it that we want to impart into you so that we all can have an amazing year.
And I think as you said, we put so much into it. We did, but we got it from you. You know, this is the cry for help that we have been hearing from the wives and from the husbands. And we already know that the key to your marital transformation is your personal transformation. And so you need to personally change, and you need to get to a point where you remember who you were and become your best self. I think all too often we take on so many negative vices when we go through struggles, and we're so buried in the vices, we don't know how to be anymore. And we need to figure it out and remember. So guys, look into it, register. We are excited about these two programs, and we're going to be doing this for 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
And then we're going to do it again and again and again until we transfer every couple into who they're designed to be.
Boom. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Last question, guys. Last question in terms of a couple's year in review. This is an important one. Now, we've been talking about the past. We've been assessing where you have been. Now, let's talk about the future. The question is, what do you want to focus on as a couple in the new year? Now, Danielle talked about New Year's resolutions. You make a New Year's resolution, and about halfway through the month, the next month, done, gone. Doesn't happen. This is a different approach. It's less about a specific goal. It's less about that, but more about a general focus. Like, where do we want to be? What do we want to focus on? What is a word that can represent a theme for the new year?
Easiest way to do it ever. You know, you can do a whole vision, which I highly recommend you having a vision for your marriage and tweaking it every year to get out what's not working and all of that. But the easiest way to focus on the future and to actually accomplish something is to have a word that you agree on. I'll never forget when we were a couple years ago working like slaves, and we were like, you know what? We just want to have fun. That's going to be our word for the year, fun. And that was the year when we had a tremendous amount of fun. We did things that we never did before. We went places, we tried food, we tried things. We just focused on fun, and it was an incredible year. And so you can do that as well for your marriage. We talked about this last year, that you have this word that you sit down and also have your own word. I have my own word. My word this year is finish. Finish, because I have a lot of programs, and I have a lot of things that I'm in the process of, and I'm going to finish them. And so have your personal word, but you also need to have your couple word. And that's something that you are touching and agreeing on and standing on. And that's something that balances your marriage throughout the year and is the actual primary focus.
Yeah. So having a word, having a focus like that gives your relationship purpose.
Yes.
And what happens is when you have purpose, and you've heard Jeff and I talk about this on Ask the Experts, when you have a purpose, you're thinking outside of yourself. You're not sobbing. You're not in the pit of your misery. You're not reflecting on the past. There's something you're looking forward to. There's something you're pursuing. There's something you're trying to accomplish, which gets you out of that dark place. It's almost like you begin to become obsessed with something else, so you're not obsessing about what has kept you in that dark place. So as a couple, it's so critically important to do it, because it's like the glue that binds you together. It becomes your rallying cry.
It does, absolutely. It's your why. You know, it's the reason why you're going to get up every day. It's, you know, when you would sit back and not do anything at all, or whatever your word's going to be. If it's about the couple, it's going to be, you know, connecting, communicating, whatever it is, where you might just stay in your own personality style and not communicate. That word is going to come before you. Connect, communicate. And it will motivate you. It's your why the entire year. And that's what helps you get to the end and say, wow, look how far we've come. We didn't even talk last year. Now we talk all the time. Yes. Wow, look how far we've come. We didn't even touch last year. I didn't even know how it felt to hold his hand in a year. But now I hold his hand all the time. That's how you move forward.
So what we want you to do, brainstorm, right? Take out a piece of paper, come up with 10, 15 different words, just things that just come to your mind. Write them down and then share them with each other, right? And then begin to cluster together words that are kind of in alignment, like these are cousins of one another. I can see the merge. And then what you do is look at your spouse's list, check off the ones you like. You're not going to like them all. Then they look at your list, they check off the ones they like. They're not going to like them all. Then you look at all the checked off words and then say, okay, we got 8 core words. Let's figure out what word we want to use for our marriage. And then you through a process of elimination, you choose one, and boom, you've got your word. And that is what you carry out for the theme of 2022, and I promise you it will make a significant difference in your life and in your marriage. Listen, guys, that's been a couples year in review. We want you to have an amazing time tonight. Whatever you do, be safe, because COVID is on the rise.
Sanitizer.
All of that good stuff.
N95s, don't play. Seriously, guys, it's real out there. Pay attention. And there's so many things you could do alone or apart. Definitely 6 feet apart. I want to say this because it's important. You know, we think we got to go do because it's New Year's and Christmas and all that. The most important place is right here. Wherever you are, right here. So if that means in your house, if that means in your backyard, if that means you take a walk down the street 6 feet away from everybody, stay safe. Focus on the important things, guys, so that you can have a new year that is phenomenal and healthy, and you can see the end of the new year. Okay?
It sounds like a far way off, but guess
not.
what? We will see you
Soon.
next year.
Yeah.
Boom. Love you guys. Take care.